we wanted to do was create a system, a piece of software that individual contributors could use to automate the parts of their work that they really don't enjoy doing, but that are very detailed and generally very hard. I think we're yet to reap many of the benefits as regular people from these increases in efficiencies. And on top of that, I don't think we're done milking the transformer cow just yet. The current paradigm of AI that we're in, we're all waiting for the next big breakthrough. But even in this current paradigm, there's still a lot of discoveries that we're making every single week.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder? Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where AI isn't about replacing humans. It's about making us look way smarter in half the time with twice the coffee. I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I help B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. When AI becomes your team's chief of staff, what does your job start to look like? In this episode, we explore the evolving role of artificial intelligence in transforming the workplace, not as a sidekick, but as a fully empowered operational force. Think way beyond chatbots and some automation scripts. We're talking about AI that delegates tasks, manages workflows, and frees up your team to focus on the decisions that actually move the business forward. We'll dive into how large organizations are still lagging behind in AI adoption and why the real productivity gains are just getting started. From due diligence that takes minutes instead of hours to voice activated agents tracking workflows in real time. This conversation unpacks the hidden layers of efficiency that AI is already making possible. You'll hear how AI agents are changing job dynamics, like turning employees into CEOs of their own personal productivity platforms, and why the future belongs to those who can integrate AI, not just talk about it. We'll also look at the infrastructure shift that is definitely underway, from massive investments in energy to the growing need for dedicated AI leadership within companies. Because without a clear owner for implementation, even the best tools just sit around and gather dust. If you're thinking about how to scale smarter, reduce operational drag, and redefine what productivity means for your team, this episode will challenge your assumptions and give you a glimpse into what's coming next. Let's dive in. Our expert guest last Thursday was Michelle Griffin, CEO of Griffin Resources. She showed us how to scale smart without the overhead. She shared why fractional hiring is the founder-friendly way to build operations and how to retain top performers without forcing them into management. And the big one, why succession planning starts way, way earlier than you think. This one was a masterclass in lean growth and healthy culture. And our founder last week was Carl Holden, CEO of RankBot. He took us inside the wild west of AI-powered SEO, or AIO. From backlink automation to AI-generated content, Carl explained what's working right now in off-page optimization and what's just hype. He also broke down how founders can build in public while iterating fast without waiting for perfection. If you missed either episode, go back and check those two out. Great stuff. My guest today is Alberto Rizzoli, CEO of V7, Europe's fastest growing AI startup, and one of the world's most exciting visionaries in applied artificial intelligence. A second-time founder, Alberto has spent the last decade building award-winning AI products that have reshaped industries, won back-to-back CES Innovation Awards, and earned him national honors from the President of Italy. It's pretty cool stuff. At V7, Alberto is building the future of data labeling, autonomous systems, and AI agents that work like teammates, not tools. He's here to share what happens when AI becomes your chief of staff, when implementation is still every company's bottleneck, and what the real future of human machine collaboration looks like. Welcome someone scaling at the speed of innovation. Alberto Rizzoli. Welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
You built AI companies for over a decade, which is pretty amazing. What's changed most in that time in how businesses adopt and apply AI since you founded V7?
Everything has changed since 3 years ago. When I first started, AI was largely something that was considered computer science research, and neural networks were promising, but they were not used very extensively. Today, AI is almost a replacement of technology as we know it. And you see it in conferences that have renamed themselves to AI for X. You see it in established companies that now have the word AI in their main tagline on the website. And this is all, I think, because there is a promise that the concept of a neural network is sort of the new code. And therefore, all new software will have AI as one of its main processing engines. It's not exactly true for everything. Code is still king in most processes that are deterministic, but it has unlocked maybe twice as many possibilities of what software can do, thanks to AI finally being reliable. And it all started from it understanding human language.
That is a lot. I mean, 3 years is an eternity in tech right
It
now.
is now, yeah.
Yeah,
Even 6 months is an eternity. If you think
it
of
is.
where video generation models were when they first got started, we've all seen the Will Smith eating spaghetti
Right,
videos,
right.
and now they're almost indistinguishable from reality. That the new Sora 2 models, I think, would fool uh, half the world's population to thinking that they're AI if they're prompted well. They're not AI if they're prompted well.
Yep.
So there it won't be long before they can fool everyone.
What do you think the most practical, high impact AI use cases are that you're seeing right now, especially when it comes to B2B companies, and then why do those work?
So I started V7 to tackle what I think is the most impactful use cases, which is all the repetitive work that we don't enjoy doing as humans.
Yep.
I made an example before of creative work, but actually humans really enjoy creative work. It's a form of self-expression that we like. Another thing that we like is interpersonal work. Even introverts do like interacting with people every now and again. What we don't enjoy doing is our taxes, our accounting, our due diligence flows, spending an afternoon in front of a spreadsheet. All of this knowledge work that is done in the back end of a company or the back office or middle office is something that AI is incredibly good at doing. And what we wanted to do was create a system, a piece of software that individual contributors could use to automate the parts of their work that they really don't enjoy doing, but that are very detailed and generally very hard. There's a large industry in outsourcing these tasks that's about $270 billion that we've built up over the last 30 to 40 years in, let's say, the richest countries in the world, in outsourcing all of these somewhat menial tasks to the outside world. And there's an even bigger industry within the companies that are all around us, the largest consulting companies, the banks, the insurance companies. Every time you pay for insurance for your car or for your home, a big portion of that, about a third, is administrative costs. And you're paying effectively for work that no one really wants to do, but that needs to be done. If AI were to be able to learn to do that work, then that cost can be eliminated. And there's many more advantages beyond that, but I think it's one of the quickest and most impactful unlocks of the use of AI today. In a similar vein, when I'm calling you from the UK right now, the NHS system, the healthcare system here, spends about 40% of its budget on administrative costs. And that is all work that AI is very capable of doing. When someone thinks of healthcare, they think of nurses, doctors, surgeons, people that are taking care of people and that use their medical knowledge in order to perform a specific service. That part is a very human job, and AI is not very good at doing it beyond some diagnostics and beyond some assistance. But everything that happens outside of your perception that is very expensive and generally not very fun
Right.
is something that V7 could help automate majorly.
Oh, that's really, really good. And it's absolutely correct. I mean, the creative side is something that we enjoy, but there's so many things that, our jobs, that things that we have to do, things that always need to be done, but they're not necessarily great uses of skills or intellect or creativity. but they still have to be done. So, yeah, agentic AI is a huge leap forward in making that happen. I think AI agent implementation has been hyped a lot. Where have you seen them actually deliver measurable value, and then what makes those use cases stand out?
Yeah, there's two forms of measurable value. Well, there's value that actually can be measured and value that is measurable, but we don't measure it. And I think it's a greater percentage of the value. For example, if you are a small business owner and you need to review a legal document or you need to understand your legal risk in any action they need to take in buying a new location, in hiring an employee with a particular set of legislation requirements. Today, you have the ability to ask ChatGPT for legal advice. And the reason why people do it is because it's free and it's on tap. Even if you had the money to ask a lawyer and that were not an issue, you would still first ask ChatGPT because you get an instantaneous answer and
Sure.
there's no friction towards that. So the measurable impact of AI agents for knowledge work, like the ones that B7 builds, is generally measured in the throughput and speed of a query. So due diligence flow in an investment bank normally takes, let's say, the information memorandum, which is the large pitch deck that proposes the acquisition or sale of a company, is about 70 to 100 slides, lots of financial detail, lots of charts, graphs, and diagrams. And an analyst takes 5 to 7 hours to turn that into a summary or a memo to actually understand whether it's a good deal or not for the business. AI can do that in 20 minutes. So the throughput of that is basically a 10 to 20x speed increase, and that's measurable. It's a reduction in the amount of time that these analysts need to spend on this task, which is, in a way, it's a cost reduction, but the analysts are doing other more meaningful work. So it's usually a revenue increase. And then there's all the parts that cannot be measured, which is the idea that when you're working in a team and in a company, you normally have to ask another team member to do work for you.
Right.
And that person might be busy. They might have a backlog of things. They might get back to you after 2 hours. And the work might be done on a Friday when you assign it on a Tuesday. We take that for granted. But in the age of AI, all of that becomes instantaneous. And now you have all these internal operations on tap. And when you start operating that way, you unlock a way of doing business that is significantly more efficient, but also feels a lot better. And one big difference that AI makes, especially large language models that are capable of reasoning, is that they're not like being stuck on the autoresponder of a phone line that tells you to press 1, 2, or 3, depending on your options. It's not that restrictive. These models are intelligent enough that they know when a human should look at something or when a task can be done in a straight through process. So sticking to an insurance use case, which is the third largest industry that we cater to, if someone submits a claim and that claim has no particular red flag or amber flags, there's no reason why they should get an instantaneous answer from the system, or within 10 minutes they get their
Right.
response and their validation. And AI is now capable enough that if there is something that requires some human intervention, it can route it to a human and get them to perform the work that the human client on the other side actually needs help with. There really is a huge non-measurable component of being able to utilize these resources on tap. And a good way to think about it is that every employee will be a bit like a CEO of various AI agents, and that they effectively have a chief of staff AI that is able to delegate parts of their work to the specialist agents who get back to them within 5 to 20 minutes with completed work. And the sooner you implement that, the sooner you realize what the next generation of companies are going to look like. We're sort of eliminating the old notion of artisanship in knowledge work. Right now, most of the work that we do is artisanal in offices and banks and venture capital, even in startups. We do a lot of this work manually. Code is a piece of artisanal work. With AI, we're turning it more into a mass manufacturing process, but with a lot more care than your typical mass manufacturing activity. There will still be room for artisanal work for the really special cases, but it unlocks the ability to create things in a much faster and more scalable way. We're now in a stage in which there are objects that are cheaper to buy new than to repair, and because of the amount of manufacturing efficiency that we created, which is terrible for the environment. But at least in the area of knowledge work, the alternative is terrible for the environment. Keeping a human away from their family and children for 5 hours to do some work that AI can do in 5 minutes by consuming a lot less relative energy will actually be kind of the best of both worlds. It will make people happier, and it will also make let's say the earth a little bit happier, because we can focus on taking care of it and taking care of each other, rather than being stuck on this very manual paperwork based work that we have to do every day.
It's really, really good. Thinking about just the future of work and just the model that you just painted with having a chief of staff AI that's delegating work to other agents. Is that something that's sometime in the future, or is that now?
We are doing that today. We have a chatbot called Concierge that is aware of all of the AI agents within a team or a workspace and knows what they're good at doing, and therefore can delegate that work so that someone doesn't actually have to know the whole architecture of the AI system within a company. It would be similar to ChatGPT if ChatGPT were to have other more expert ChatGPTs that know how to do one thing particularly well. And it's not a domain like legal. It is specifically an NDA or an MSA or an employment contract. And they follow particular guidelines that the company teaches them. And they can follow these guidelines to a T and make sure that the work is compliant, it's consistent. Ultimately, these are like mini employees that the company can continue to update, keep up with the times, improve over time. Little by little, our goal from a software perspective is to turn every internal operation into an AI agent. So the later one concierge can route all these tasks to the right agents, and the agents know how to complete it within seconds and route the work back to them and then back to the human user. So we're not really far off from this reality. I think it's becoming more and more commonplace to have this multi-agent system. Even ChatGPT behind the scenes is a multi-agent system.
Yes.
When you ask it to draw a picture for you, it actually takes a picture and gives it to another model, but it's unified the user experience into one UI, which is quite important, because if the user needed to go and select the right model to do that type of work, they probably wouldn't know which one to choose, or they would have to do a lot of reading. And the whole point of AI is to just do that busy work for us.
It's really smart on their part to do that, because instead of having to figure out how the watch was built, we're just asking what time it is. And so we don't have to think about any of those other internal parts. We just, ask for the image or query or whatever it is, and then it figures out the right tool for the job behind the scenes. It's absolutely brilliant from a user interface perspective.
Indeed. And I think we will see more user experience innovations in the next year. I think 2025 was the year of agents and people trying to understand how AI can use the arrow of time a little bit more. So not just give a response, but reason through it, make some tool calls, look into other software, and then get back with a more complete answer, a more complete unit of work, not instantaneously, but after a few seconds of tinkering. I think 26 will be the year of new user experiences. Right now, the chat UI that we have is sort of what the command line interface was before the graphical user experience was the GUI, the graphical user interface, was invented. And then that led to the personal computer revolution and Apple and Microsoft becoming giants. I think we're at the cusp of that. What's unclear is who will win in that race, because back then, Microsoft and Apple didn't have a ton of competition. Xerox was doing the GUI, but they didn't move fast enough. We're now in a world in which startups are moving very fast, but the incumbent giants, the Googles, the Microsofts, Apple a little bit less so, but they're moving really, really fast. It's hard to keep up with whenever Google does its I/O conference, even startups that are really focused on one big problem are amazed at the speed at which these large companies are creating new innovations.
Yes.
The route for startups really is to beat them on quality. We can no longer keep an innovation safe. There's a lot of copying and taking inspiration in the world of AI, where as soon as, one startup like Granola cracks a great user experience for meeting recording, there's another 100 granolas that spawn as a result of that. And
Right.
there's incumbents like Notion that say, hey, let's take what Granola did and put it into Notion. And all of this leads to a new way of competing within startups that is really focused on being the highest quality version of that and capturing that percentage of users that are discerning enough that they need the best version of a particular tool because it improves their work and their quality of life on the other end. And that's
Yeah.
something that I think AI companies are in a way struggling with, but also pushing the boundaries of innovation through that quality metric.
What if a leadership book and a Netflix drama had a baby? That is The Captain's Keys, Storms, Emotional Wreckage, and a surprisingly practical leadership system that one CEO called the owner's manual and never got for 20 years of leadership. Here is the brutal truth. You're probably drowning in LinkedIn connections while starving for real relationships. I hear it all the time. Most leaders are exhausted from playing the lone hero, and it's killing both your results and your sanity. The Captain's Keys reveals a new leadership framework, the stability matrix, four specific relationships that prevent burnout while multiplying your impact. And this isn't just theory. It's a system that I've used to scale companies and taught over 1,000 executive leaders. So grab your copy today at thecaptainskeys.com, Amazon, or choose your own adventure. Print, ebook, or audio. Stop drowning alone and build your stability matrix. That's true. I mean, there is a lot of parity between solutions, and I don't think technology is a moat anymore, really at all. Somebody has a new feature, rolls out something new, and lots of other companies will have that within certainly within 6 months. A lot of times now, maybe within a few weeks.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, but
Um,
the speed that the big companies are moving is pretty amazing. We haven't seen that in other industries or in the past. Big companies were notoriously slow, and some of them still are. But a lot of the big ones are moving much faster than I would anticipate.
yeah, it's definitely credit to them. I think we thought for a moment the future was in the hands of many different industries, and that they would sort of all grow together, and that maybe in the age of AI we would have brand new AI companies like OpenAI effectively capture the top spots, and these giants would eventually slowly fall due to inertia. This had turned out not to be as true as we thought. I think the future belongs to these tech giants and a few startups that are tenacious enough to really be the best and stay as the best even after they cross the 100 million revenue line and they start getting copied by everyone. If you look at the valuation increases of these tech giants, we've never seen a period in history in which the value of a business has grown so rapidly at that scale.
Right.
Um, and some might say that this is effectively considered a bubble. But I think if we ignore the fact that interest rates are high and then earnings are really high at the moment, there is still an enormous amount of unrealized value from AI. There is still close to no AI usage at the world's largest companies. I think we're yet to reap many of the benefits as regular people from these increases in efficiencies. And on top of that, I don't think we're done milking the transformer cow just yet. The current paradigm of AI that we're in, we're all waiting for the next big breakthrough. But even in this current paradigm, there's still a lot of discoveries that we're making every single week.
Yes.
We're now looking at world models as a research community, which are effectively like auto rendering video games where you can navigate within, and in real time the AI imagines the next scene and the next frame and the next frame, and therefore it's almost like an infinite video game system. And that is all based on the same architectures that we've been using for the past 3 to 5 years. So we're kind of in this age of discovery, or we were in the age of discovery maybe 3 years ago. We kind of landed in this new land, and now we're discovering all the new fruits, benefits, and gold that are within it. And I don't think it's going to slow down in the next couple of years. Maybe after that, we will start to see some more diminishing returns. But there's also a high likelihood of a breakthrough simply because of the amount of investments that it's going into
Right.
the space.
It almost becomes self-fulfilling because there's so much money pouring into it, and that drives innovation, which brings more money, which drives more innovation. And I think it does become self-fulfilling to some degree.
Yeah. If you follow the money and look at it very cynically, startups like V7 and others are getting a lot of investment, and that's fine. But the banks are funding the development of new power generation so that the data centers can run and fulfill the demand for AI. And when investment goes into the infrastructure layer of a country, we've never seen so much investment in power generation since World War II. So it really is a paradigm shift that's happening. And when that happens, when these billions or tens of billions are being poured into core infrastructure, into energy, it does become a self-fulfilling thing. That energy has to go somewhere, and then it
Right.
turns into, one reason why when you call your local bank or your local, let's say, mechanic, you don't get AI to respond to the phone is because these agents are still a little bit too expensive to replace kind of automated phone lines from the previous generation or sometimes even call centers. But we really are months away from that price point going even lower. There's a lot on the cutting edge when we see OpenAI releasing new models, but there's still a lot of transpiring that needs to happen in using these models in real world use cases. We're shocked at the fact that when we engage with a Fortune 1000, there still isn't usually a single threaded leader for the implementation of AI within the business, and there should be. It's one of the most useful roles to have is a person who is in charge of acquiring AI vendors and then working with them to implement it, and then assigning effectively champions that know how to utilize a particular AI tool and placing that in. And that can have really high returns with a role that is effectively one full-time employee that is in charge of that. And the effect of them is that, if any company has a team of 5 that is doing something, if you have one person who is in charge of doing an AI rollout, identifying the use cases for which they can use AI to a similar quality to what the humans are doing, that increases the productivity of all the humans by 30 to 50% already, and it pays for itself.
Wow.
So there's also an evolution of how work charts are developed and these new roles that appear. It's a very similar notion to what used to be the CRM manager when Salesforce was growing. All these sales teams were keeping notes on paper and in Excel, and then they moved everything to the cloud in a CRM like Salesforce. And the sales team became very efficient because there was one person that was maintaining this library of contacts and emails and deals. Now this is becoming the same with AI tools, where if one person maintains the AI tools for outreach, for document understanding, for legal workflows, for accounting, that will have multiplicative effects on the efficiency of any company.
I think a lot of founders don't necessarily know where to start. And whether they're in big companies or even smaller companies, how do you recommend evaluating which AI use cases to prioritize? Especially when
Mhm.
data is limited, or in a lot of organizations, it's pretty messy.
Yeah, indeed. I think if you're in a small business, then the best thing that you can do is try different AI tools yourself and develop the thesis on your own. There's an element of realization when you start using AI tools of various nature that kind of unlocks ideas in your head of how you could actually use it. And the hardest part of any task is the first 20 seconds. It's just like doing a Google search and downloading something or putting some time in your calendar to actually do this exploration. So if you are a small business owner or startup founder, and you're not an AI company, which is now increasingly fewer tech AI founders, the first thing you should do is go and try these tools. But if you're part of a larger business, then a good way to identify a use case that you should use AI for is one that is broadly well documented. So any internal process that has some form of standard operating procedure, whether it's how you qualify leads, how you do outreach, how you look over internal documents, Anything that is considered a flow that you could summarize in a 2-pager of the steps that you can do, that's a perfect use case for AI. And if it's a document-related query, either in producing documents at scale on a daily basis or understanding them, for example, investment documents, rent rolls, leases, insurance slips, then you should try V7. For anything else, Google or ChatGPT search is your friend, and just ask what the top 5, top 10 AI tools are for one particular case and try all 5 of them. There's also a lot of snake oil in AI. There's a lot of tools that promise the moon and then don't work. So when you're doing the evaluation, one of the best things to do is to ask yourself how well it works at scale, or stress test it at scale. Run the same query or run multiple queries with dummy data many times until it gets there. Another part is the inherent quality of what you're getting is going to get you 80% of the way on the first prompt, if it's a good AI tool. But then getting to 100 is a much bigger amount of effort. Therefore, if you are using a tool, don't just stop at the first prompt and see the result. See how much effort it takes to actually get to the final output that you desire. There's a lot of vibe coding tools like Lovable or V0 that sort of give you the final product. Look really good for a prototype, but they are still not quite there for developing a full-fledged app that you would put in front of your users. And that's something that you only realize when you try these things. The first prompt is great. You get something that looks like almost as good as what you would do yourself if you put a lot of care into it. But then getting it to be really good is a much, much bigger piece of work.
Yes.
And right now, in the age of AI, if something is not really good, it's nothing, because average software, average tools can be created with AI really quickly. And the same goes for anything. You can write an okay book with ChatGPT, but to write a great book, you need to put, 10 times more effort into it. And so, still be ready to do the work. Don't take the emergence of AI as an excuse to start working on something that you personally are not very good at or not very passionate about, because everyone else will try and make a vibe coded version of something that makes them money.
Right.
What people are actually looking for is passion and uniqueness.
I love that. What have been some of the greatest go-to-market challenges for V7? And then how have you worked around the limitations of network effects in deep tech?
Yeah, one of the biggest ones is what I mentioned in terms of the lack of a person who is in charge of AI implementation. If this were solved, it would make things a lot easier, and it's solved in maybe 1 in 10 companies that we speak to. And
Because you
when
know
there
who
is
to
that
sell
person,
to. Is that why?
we know who to sell to, and they know how to evaluate the product,
Yeah.
and they also know which use cases are they most excited about. We have a list of them for every industry that we work with. There's like a top 5 use cases that have measurable ROI, and we could present them to a client so that they can get used to the first implementation. But AI is not a point solution. It is a framework for to be implemented across many parts of the business.
Right.
And so it shouldn't stop at the first use case or the first experiment. Another challenge is credibility. We've developed a lot of credibility over time as an AI company, but people are definitely skeptical that a software business can effectively generate software that can replace something that an expert that has gone to university to do a particular job can do. And the way we dispel that is by showing the product to customers, showing a lot of credibility from past clients that have hundreds of billions in assets under management on the finance side, for example, that have replaced their analysts by and large with AI. But there's still some skepticism in there, and there is still an inherent fear on the customer side that they may be causing a disaster by implementing AI in a particular process that is working just fine with humans. So it does need a little bit of courage on the customer side, and needs a little bit of credibility building on the vendor side, like ourselves. And then there's the role of competition. With AI becoming a big thing, there's a lot more companies that have framed themselves in the space of AI. And even on the talent side, about half of the people that we interview that are not coming from an AI company, one of the reasons to work for V7, amongst others, is I would really like to be in the space of AI. It feels very exciting. It feels like it's growing, and that's obviously a good thing. But it also means that there is this surge of small businesses that are trying their luck in one particular industry, and they create a little bit of noise.
Yep.
And this noise means not everyone is qualified to build a great AI product. If you have not been building software since you were 18, or since your very early 20s, it might not be the thing you're strongest at.
Right.
And so we encounter a lot of companies that have been burned by specific vendors, or companies that have overpromised, and sometimes they're larger, very well funded startups that overpromise on the capabilities of their software. They give a killer demo, but it's largely on data that they already know. And so again, that goes into that credibility and fear, where when with every boom, and this happened in crypto as well, there's a lot of over promising, so that everyone can compensate. If they're not the top vendor in something, they will tell a story to pretend like they are. So these are some of the GTM challenges that we encounter. There's also a shift in the go-to-market team composition, where talent is moving away from being charming, charismatic, and good at sales and customer success, to being technical and problem oriented or solution oriented. And people trust our go to market people a lot more when they can both understand the industry domain, but also the technical talk, and provide that insight on how the product works in greater detail. And I think anyone that is in a non-technical sales or customer success role should consider getting a little bit more technical, because that is becoming the new norm. And even sales is becoming closer to, there's the occurrence of a GTM engineer, which is what the term that I believe Clay has coined, where outreach in the age of AI is half engineering and tool use, and half communication on the phone and in person. And the former part is something that actually makes you a much rarer candidate in the job market than the latter.
That's really, really good. And I think that hiring has definitely changed. And so, as founders are thinking about building their teams, how should they be thinking about that going forward? As they're hiring or planning for the future, how should they be
Mhm.
rethinking headcount, team structure, and those plans?
I think in the Y Combinator playbook from 2010, there used to be a notion of hiring. Uh, I think they called it barrels and bullets, or effectively, you have managers and then individual contributors that can be delegated tasks and complete them to high reliability. This is changing. I think the role of managers, especially middle management, is slowly disappearing. When it starts to disappear at Google and Meta, you know that it's going to disappear elsewhere too. And it's being replaced by a more of a player coach role, someone that is doing the work, and they're really good at doing the work, and they can also coach their colleagues, and they're effectively the manager and the owner of the performance of the team, but they're not just there to manage. And one reason for this is that the world of tech is moving so quickly that someone that is not doing the work day to day is less capable of adapting after 2 years of pure management. But another element that is emerging is that every team should have a multiplier who is technical and in charge of tool implementation and AI implementation. And I mentioned earlier the sort of GTM engineering component of it. Even in marketing, having someone who is proficient with technical tools and AI tools can be a force multiplier, because they can identify all the areas in which new and better tools could be used. And in engineering, it goes without saying, the adoption of tools like Cursor should be proposed by the CTO, and at some point it should be implemented, unfortunately by force, because there's a lot of people that are just fine with doing some of the work manually. But if you're doing a two-line code change and submitting a PR for it, then you should just use a Cursor agent for that. And implementing that as a rule starts to unlock a lot of additional productivity. headcount in startups is lower than ever by the amount of revenue made. And this is kind of scary for all new graduates that are looking for a job. But I think there is still, people are still by and large looking for folks that have a knack for automation and to know how to use tools. Maybe a piece of advice, like we are struggling to find AI implementation owners in our customer base, which is in finance, insurance, legal, real estate, all these like more traditional knowledge work filled businesses. And those companies are desperate for young people, for a young person that can implement those automations, that can own them and effectively be the internal automation czar of the business. I think that's a really interesting career to pursue because it's the kind of role that is in really high demand, and that it can also be very fun because you're moving across many different projects and you're learning a ton. You're effectively learning how every facet of the business operates because you're there to evaluate which component can be AI assisted and which one should be human made.
Oh, that's great. I think that's very, very good observation in for the labor market, and I think that having that role, I mean, that's a big takeaway. Is having that role is really becoming a lot more critical in organizations of every size, and so somebody that owns that process and is really kind of orchestrating the automations.
Hmm.
Where
Indeed.
can people learn more about you and about V7 online?
Online, I'm on Twitter at Alberto Rizzoli, all one term. And my company is V7. You can search V7 Labs, V for Victoria, number 7. The website is v7labs.com. And next time you're in front of a spreadsheet or a document that you don't want to fill in or complete, think about us and check out v7labs.com and see if AI can do most of that work for you. And you can teach a man to fish, or in this case, you can teach an agent to run the work for you.
That's awesome. We'll make sure and link all of that in the show notes. Alberto, it's been a great conversation. Thanks again, Alberto, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Alberto and V7 at v7labs.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel as well. It's at Champion Leadership is our channel. You can find full video episodes, shorts, reels, outtakes, trainings, lots more things over there for you on YouTube. Thought leaders share. Share this episode with someone who's launched 3 startups, 2 newsletters, and 1 surprisingly successful meme account. Didn't know anybody like that? Well, everyone who shares this week gets a limited edition founder survival candle. It smells like caffeine, optimism, and the faint panic of a pending Stripe invoice. Can your engineering organization move faster without working harder? Our next guest, Thanos Diakakis, joins us to share how elite dev teams stall and what to do about it. With experience scaling Uber's jump bikes to 2 million plus monthly rides and leading platform rollouts at startups, Thanos is here to show you how to get products out the door without burning your team. And yes, he will have the gauntlet. You'll see it on the show. Then after that, we have Monica Marquez, founder of Flipwork and workplace AI strategist. She'll be here to reveal how Fortune 500 companies are using mindset, inclusion, and training to create real AI fluency across their workforce. From executives to entry level, this one is a blueprint for leading in the age of AI. I'll see you next time, and as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.